What's happening, Reddit family? And just like that, we are back. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and like so I can know. And also comment what you think on these stories. Today, we have a story on the usual mistaken for an employee, but with a twist of, you really don't want me to call my manager for you right now. But before we get into that story, need more bean sprouts. After lurking for a while, I decided to share my story. One evening, I went out for dinner with friends to a local Mongolian barbecue. If you're unfamiliar with this type of restaurant, you are sat at a table, then get up and get into a line where there's a buffet of raw items you pile up into a bowl. At the end of the line, you hand the bowl to a cook who stir-fry your mixture on the top of a giant flat wok and then give it back to you. As I'm back at my table and eating, this guy approached the table and I hear, "Excuse me, you're out of bean sprouts." Confused, I looked at my bowl, then at this older guy who's apparently talking to me. He seems annoyed and points at the buffet. Then it hits me. He thinks I work there, solely based on me being Asian. My friends, non-Asian, started laughing. Guy does not apologize, walks away and yelled the same at the wok guy. "Aw, you're out of bean sprouts? That's just crazy. I think you should go tell somebody that actually works here." Talk about confusion. Now he's walking around yelling at everybody for some bean sprouts. That's crazy. But you can't be biased based on the place that you eat at. I just wanted a damn prego test. This was back in December of 21. I worked as a third-party vendor in the electronics department of Wally World. I sold phones and phone accessories, and while I had a set of keys and used their break room, I was not employed by Wally World. My uniform was black slacks, black shoes, and we had black shirts, fleeces with the logo in addition to a lanyard, but no vest. We constantly were mistaken for employees, and after a point, you learn to just turn about any conversation into a phone conversation. Now that you have the visual, it was a Black Friday/Christmas event. All hands were on deck, and this happened about dinner time when I had been there since 6 a.m. I ate part of my dinner and was feeling a tad nauseous and went back to my supervisor who told me to go take a test. So off I went in search of one. Went back to the pharmacy section and ran into one of my favorite workers who wasn't usually assigned to that section, but figured it wouldn't hurt to ask him if he knew where they were. And he did, but it was in the clearance section of all places. So off we went, and I found what I was looking for. So I started heading back to the electronics when I hear the "excuse me." And considering I had been with an employee, I had assumed they were talking to him, but nope. I got stopped about 10 seconds later, and while normally I would have done my job and did the phone conversation, I wasn't on the clock. I had been there nearly 12 hours and was hungry, so I just went, "I don't work here," and continued on thinking that was the end of it. Nope. Her husband followed me halfway across the store to complain how I, as an employee, should have helped his wife, and it was incredibly rude that I did not. In a not-so-proud moment, I snapped a bit. Can't remember exactly what I said, but I distinctly remember being verbally frustrated in response. Eventually, he got help from an actual employee, though. As a side note, though, about a month later, I sold him a phone. Ha! Edit to add, because I have been asked a few times, my daughter is now 7 months old, nearly 8 months. The test was definitely needed. Well, first of all, congratulations on your bundle of joy, OP. This is definitely going to be a funny story to tell her when she gets older if you do decide to tell her. But I really can't believe that you sold this man a phone a month later. That's just good sales. If you could take a man that was mad at you a month ago and turn around and convince him to get a phone, wow. You want to call my manager? Okay, call him. This happened over a year ago at Walmart. For some context, on my days off, I have a blue Dickies work shirt I wear whenever I go out that has pins and patches all over it as my sort of battle vest, if you will. This fact means that more than once I have been mistaken as a Walmart employee, which I normally just brush off, but this dude took it to another level. So I go to Walmart to drop my car off for an oil change. I decide that I'll walk through the store since it was hot out, then across the parking lot to a fast food joint for lunch. As I'm walking down one of the aisles, I hear a grumpy, "Sir?" from the other side over a pallet of products. I just sort of ignore it and keep walking. A quick look at me should tell you that I don't work here, but this guy walked around the pallets and get right in front of me, all the while yelling "sir" at me. I stop because he's now right in front of me and pop out one of my earbuds, to which the guy starts to go off on me. "Are you freaking helping a customer or just freaking ignoring me? You shouldn't have your hat or freaking headphones on at work," he yells. I just roll my eyes and say, "That was rude, but no, I will not help you." I then gesture at my lack of Walmart name badge and all the pins and patches on my shirt, trying to imply that I don't work here. "Well, I want to speak to your manager. You shouldn't treat customers like this." I start to pull my phone out and scroll through my contacts till I find my manager. Mind you, my manager at the time was a grumpy old man from Tennessee who would take zero crap from anyone. Had this guy called my manager, he would have had his behind verbally handed to him. You want to speak to my manager? Okay, but he's going to tell you the same thing I'm about to tell you. Back off. Don't yell at anyone like that. Dude is now getting more angry as I show him my manager number. Go ahead, call him. Tell him I didn't help you out. I don't work here and it's my day off. You shouldn't be treating people who do work at the store like this. The guy just mumbled something, then pushed past me and walked away, having never called my manager. The next time I was at work, I told my manager the story and he got a laugh out of it, saying that he would have loved if that guy had called him. It amazes me how many stories like this are out there. I personally would have liked to hear what his manager would have said to the man if he did call him. You can't just be going around being rude to people like that. People work hard. You don't know what type of day somebody had. That's just rude. Why are you yelling? I wear black jeans, black t-shirts, black jackets, black shoes. It could definitely be mistaken for a uniform at places like Sephora or Victoria's Secret, where the dress code is black. That being said, I was going through my massive haul at Ross over the winter, where my preferred color of clothing is back on the racks, and all the pastels are finally gone. I'm standing in front of the dressing room going through my cart, near the registers, when I hear someone yelling at somebody. First, I assumed it was a couple of customers and didn't pay attention. The last thing I need is to get in the middle of a domestic while I'm sifting through crop tops that say, cute but weird, and slay your enemies. So I'm going through my stuff, about to go in the dressing room, and I notice the yelling is particularly directed in my direction. Some lady is yelling, "Why are you ignoring me? They need help at the cashiers. There's a long line. Why aren't you helping?" To which I turn around and look behind me like Vince from Pulp Fiction. What the heck? Who is she talking to? The other customers are looking at me and back at her, and I realize she's talking to me. I finally make sure contact with her, and she says, "Oh, now you pay attention. We've been standing in line forever, waiting on you." "Me?" I gesture. "Yeah, do your job." Well, I'm a dom, so I figure she doesn't actually want me to do my job in the middle of a family outlet, so I laugh. She gets furious and walks over to me and starts yelling, leaves the line to come yell in my 6'2" face. At this point, I must humiliate her as publicly as possible. So I quietly grab my clothes and walk into the dressing room and shut the door in her face. LOL. Another worker walks up to her and says, "You can't harass our customers, ma'am. Put your cart here and we're going to ask you to leave." The lady starts screaming, wants a manager. That I'm out of line. So the worker says, "It's just me, the manager, and the one cashier. This lady in the room is a customer. She doesn't work here." They escorted her out without her cart. LOL. You really gotta be that mad to get out of a long line just to come yell at somebody. She had to be embarrassed once she realized that was a customer and not a worker, and then just to get escorted out of the store for yelling. No, but seriously, patience is a virtue. Got ahead of myself today. I used to get confused for an employee quite a bit because I would wear my keys on a lanyard around my neck. Once I realized that was the problem, I started putting my keys in my pocket. However, the weather was pretty hot today, so I didn't wear a jacket when I went shopping, and my clothes didn't have pockets. Joys of wearing women's clothing. So I put my keys around my neck again. I was browsing a clothing store when a woman tapped my shoulder and pointed to a dress hanging on the rack on the wall and said something too softly for me to hear. I immediately assumed she confused me for an employee because of my keys and was asking me to price or something. So I said, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." She looked confused and said, "No?" I apologized again and walked off. I glanced back and saw her struggling to reach the dress, then realized she was actually asking me to get the dress off the rack for her since I'm tall. I felt extremely stupid, went back, apologized, and took the dress off the rack for her. It was quite embarrassing. I don't think she still understood what happened. Moral of the story, don't assume. I mean, I definitely understand the mix-up, but I'm glad that OP went back to help. I do this all the time because I'm short myself, so I always ask somebody tall to reach the top for me. But this right here is a funny mix-up. Lady says I am a useless worker when I don't even work at the place, and then tells me I should go back to my country. I was just getting food at a store while my dad was waiting in the car for me. As I am about to leave, a woman approaches me, asking me where something was. I didn't know that she was talking to me, so I just continued what I was doing. Then she grabs my hoodie and starts yelling at me for ignoring her. I tried to explain I did not know she was talking to me, but she cut me off. This store should fire useless workers like you that should go back to your country. A manager heard this and kicked the lady out of the store, while she was still cursing and screaming that I should go back to my country. The manager apologized for the lady and gave me a 25% discount on my purchases. I left that store with the biggest smile on my face. You had me at the grabbing the hoodie. Why would this lady put her hands on you? That had to be a terrible experience, but you did get something good out of it. A 25% discount on your purchases? Yeah. But a lot of times this does happen. I've never actually seen it in person, but man, And exactly what was the country that she was supposed to go back to? Well, that's all the time we have. If you'd like to hear another insane Reddit story, check out my latest video. With all that being said, I'll see you next time with more stories.